Hello everyone, this is Lecture 6 of ComSci 141, Finite Automata Extensions. In the last video, we discussed the equivalence of finite automata and regular expressions. We showed how to convert an NFA to a DFA and vice versa, converting epsilon NFA to NFA and vice versa, and how to convert regular expressions to finite automata. In the finite automata outline, we are now currently in the fifth topic, finite automata extensions. And in today's video, we will discuss two-way finite automata and finite automata with outputs, namely Moore machine and Mealy machine. We will also show that the two machines are equivalent. So let's start with two-way DFA, or 2DFA for short. This was created by Michael Rabin and Dana Scott in 1959. And the idea for the 2DFA is that it has the extra capability of moving left or right on its input tape. But even with this extra capability, it still only accepts regular languages, just like the other finite automata types. So Michael Rabin and Dana Scott were recipients of the Turing Award in 1976. Now for the 2DFA, it also uses a 5-tuple notation. So we still have the set of states Q, the input symbols sigma, transition function delta, start state Q sub 0, and set of final states F. But what will be different from our normal DFA? So for the 2DFA, the transition function delta will be different. How so? In the DFA, we map the states and input symbols to states, okay, for the transition function. But for the 2DFA, we map the set of states and the set of input symbols to a set of state and a direction, either left or right. Okay, so that's the difference. So the 2DFA transition functions look like this. So it has this format. So delta of QA is equal to PD, wherein D is either left or right. So D stands for direction. And what this means is, if the 2DFA is currently in state Q, and you see an input symbol A, it will transition to state P and move the input pointer in direction D. So it will move the input pointer either to the left or to the right. Okay? So what does that mean exactly? In processing input, what we have seen so far for DFA, NFA, and epsilon NFA is that by processing the inputs string, we only move forward. So if our input string is A, B, C, so we'll process A and then go to B and then go to C, right? But in the 2DFA, it can move forward and backward on the input string. So for example, if you're processing A, B, C, you could be at A right now and then go forward to B, but then you could go back to A and then go forward again to B, go to C, and then go back to B. So you have the ability to move forward and backward on the input. Okay? So that is the main idea for 2DFA. Now, because of this ability to move left and right on the input, the 2DFA could have the following behavior. First, it could walk off the right edge of the input, so that means that it finished processing the whole input, right? And it could either be in the accepting state or non-accepting state. Okay, so it could finish processing the input. That's what it means by walking off the right edge of the input. And depending on what state you are currently in, it could be an accepting state or non-accepting state. Okay, the other situation that you could end up in is you could walk off the left edge of the input. So because you have the ability to go left on the input, you could also go left, 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 left until you reach the first symbol, and then when you go left, then of course there's nothing to go left anymore on, right? So you will walk off the left edge of the input, and that will cause the 2DFA to crash. Okay, and the final situation is the 2DFA could enter an infinite loop. Okay, because for example, the 2DFA could tell the input, or could move left and then go right, and then move left again and then go right. So it may not progress, and it may enter an infinite loop. So we'll see examples of these behaviors later in our examples. Now for the acceptance, recall that in our DFA, we accept the string if it reaches the final state after we processed all the symbols of string W, right? So we process each input symbol one by one, and then at the end, we check if we have reached a final state or not. If it's a final state, then we accept it. But in the 2DFA, so the 2DFA will accept string W if it eventually finishes processing all symbols of W while in a final state. So the key difference here is the word eventually. Why? Because we might not process the string the same way as a DFA. Like it might not be as straightforward as just processing each input symbol um, one by one, because you could go right, but you could also go left on the input symbol. But as long as you finish it eventually, you finish processing all symbols of the string eventually, and at the end you are in a final state, then you accept it. Okay. So if you finish processing the string but you're not in a final state, then you still don't accept it. Okay, so that is acceptance of 2DFA. So let's see an example of a 2DFA. So this looks like a normal DFA except for a few things here. So we have on the transitions, we have, instead of just the input symbol, we also have the um, direction. Okay, so our set of states Q only have two. We only have two states, A and B. For our input symbols, sigma, we have 0 and 1, since those are the transitions. Start state is A, final state is just B, and then for the transition, A on 0 still goes to A, and the direction is R, or right. A on 1 goes to B here, and the direction is also right. Now B on 0 will stay in B, and the direction is left. And then B on 1 will transition to A, and the direction is left also. Okay, so this is an example 2DFA. Now let's see what will happen if we are given the following inputs. Okay, so let's see. Okay, um, so given the example 2DFA that we have, um, what will happen if we have the input 0, 0, 0? Okay, so of course, we'll start at state A, right? And then we're currently processing this input symbol. So A on 0 will remain in A and will go right. So we're now done with this. We'll go to the right. So we're currently in the second 0, but we're still in A. And A on 0 will still stay in A and go to the right. So it will go to the third 0 here. And then A on 0 still stays in A and go to the right. So when we go to the right, we have finished processing the string because there is no more input symbols left. So we have finished processing it, but did we arrive at the final state? So we're still in state A, which is a non-accepting state. So we have walked off the right edge of the input string, but we arrived at the non-final state. So we don't accept this one. Okay. Let's see another example. How about if it's 1, 0, 0? Okay. So if it's 1, 0, 0, we start at state A. Okay. And we'll process the first input symbol, which is 1. So A on 1 will go to state B, and will move to the right sa input symbol. So we are now in state B, and we move to the right. So we're currently here now, so 0. Now B on 0 will stay in B, but we move to the left. So from here, we go back to 1. Okay, so we're currently back at 1 again, and we're still at B. Now, B on 1 will go to A here, and it will also go left. So we're currently in this 1 here, and we're asked to go left. So we're actually walking off the left edge. Okay, so we walk off the left edge of the input string because from the first symbol we go left. So that's already out of bounds. So what this means is that the 2DFA will crash because you walked off the left edge of the input string. Okay, so that's two examples. So the first one is you walked off the right edge, but it's non-final state. And then the second example is you walked off the left edge, which will cause it to crash. Okay, let's see another example. How about if it's 1, 1, 1? On 1, 1, 1, we start at state A. A on 1, again, will go to B. Okay, and then it will go to the right. Okay, so it will go to the second one, but we are now in state B. And then B on 1 will go to state A and go left. So we're now in state A, and from here we go left. So we're back here again at the first one. Now, on 1, A on 1 will go back to B and then go right. So back to B again, and then go right again. And then B on 1 goes back to A, and then go left again. So we're back here. So you'll notice that we are stuck in this loop of going back and forth from A to B and going back and forth left to right in the input string. So we're actually stuck in an infinite loop. Okay, so this will not stop anytime soon. So for input string 111, the 2DFA will enter an infinite loop. Okay, so yeah, and then finally we have this input string 001. So what will happen then? We'll start at start state A. A on 0 remains in A, and then it will go to the right. So it will go to the second 0. Now, A on 0, again, remains in A, and you go to the right. So it still stays in A, and we go to the right. So we now have input symbol 1. Now, A on 1 will go to B and move to the right. So we're now in B, and we'll move to the right, which is here. So we have finished processing it. And did we arrive at the final state? Yes, we have, because B is a final accepting state. So we have walked off the right edge of the input, and we arrived at the final state. So this string is actually accepted, 001. Okay, so that is how your 2DFA works. Um, so you have the ability to move left or right on the input symbol. And because of that, you could either walk off the right edge and you could accept or you could be in an accepting state or not. You could also walk off the left edge and crash, or you could enter an infinite loop. Okay, so that's it for 2DFA. Now, um, we can also simulate the 2DFA computations with DFA if you want to. And however, in the conversion, the equivalent DFA could have exponential number of states. So in the given example earlier, this was our 2DFA. If we write the equivalent DFA, it would look something like this. Now, we won't discuss how to convert from 2DFA to DFA, but just know that it is possible to convert from 2DFA to DFA. But you'll notice that from two states here, we already have 7 states in the equivalent DFA. So that's about 2 raised to 3. So mga 8 or 8 minus 1, yeah, 7. So there's a lot of states in the equivalent DFA. Now, can you figure out what language this 2DFA accepts? So going back here, so this one actually accepts 0 star 1. Okay, because you can notice that you can take as many zeros here or not. So pwede na from A, you could also take no zeros and have the last one here. But you could take as many zeros as you want and then have the last one be the transition that allows you to go to the final state B. Okay, so this 2DFA accepts the regular language 0 star 1, and other strings that are accepted are 1 0 1. So the 0 0 1 was the example that we saw earlier. You could also use other strings. Okay, so that's it for 2DFA. Now let's go to the second finite automata extension, which is finite automata with outputs. So far, we have seen finite automata as language recognizers. So we said that the purpose of the finite automata was to accept strings as being part of the language or not, right? So it's a recognizer or a language acceptor. So it given a string, it will accept or reject the string whether it's part of the language or not. Okay, so that's what we've been using finite automatas so far. Now, for finite automata with outputs, we are not anymore concerned with accepting or rejecting strings, but instead, we will focus on what is the output associated with the input string. And we will look at two finite automata with outputs, and these are Moore machines and Mealy machines. So for the Moore machine, these are machines or finite automata with the output associated on the states. Okay, so each state has an associated output, while the Mealy machine has has outputs associated on the transitions. Okay, so we'll see what that means in a while. So let's start with the first one, which is the Moore machine. So Moore machines were created by Edward Moore in 1956. And as I mentioned, the outputs are associated with the states. So you can denote Moore machines using the 6-tuple notation. So you have Q, sigma, omega, delta, lambda, and Q sub 0. So set of states Q, input symbol sigma, transition function delta, and the start state Q sub 0, it's the same as in the normal DFA. But we have two new notations here, which are omega and lambda, and those were not found in the DFA. So we'll discuss what those two are. But you will notice that there is no set of final states F anymore. Okay, because as I mentioned, your Moore machines are not concerned with acceptance, but with printing out output. Okay, so let's see what this two additional ingredients are. So first, we have the omega, which defines your output alphabet. So going back here, sigma is your input alphabet, so set of input symbols. So equivalently, you have omega as your output symbols naman. So set of output symbols. Okay, and for lambda, this is what we call the output function, which will in this case map from the set of states to the output symbols. So for each state, you map an output associated with that state. So the lambda will look something like this for the Moore machine. So lambda of Q is equal to O, wherein Q is a state and O is an output symbol. Okay? So let's see an example Moore machine. So the set of states, we have three states, A, B, and C. For the start state, we have A here. For the input symbols, so the transitions still happen on input symbols. So you have 0 and 1. But the outputs, which are on the states, are the symbols 0, 1, and 2. So you'll notice we have 0, 1, and 2 on the states here, right? And then for the transition, it's the normal transition function delta. But the new thing here that you probably haven't seen yet is the lambda, right? So lambda of A is 0. So that means that the output associated with state A is 0. So we denote that here with A slash 0 on the state. That means that the output for state A is 0. And then we also have lambda of B is equal to 1 here. And lambda of C is equal to 2. So we are just denoting the output symbols associated with each state. Okay. Yeah. Now for the Moore machine, so when we process an input string, we start at the start state, right? So we land immediately on the start state. Now upon entering the start state, since we're already here, we will output its symbol immediately. So start pa lang, you will already output 0 in this case, in the example. Okay. So whatever is the output symbol associated with the start state, before even processing the string, since you're at that start state already, you will output its symbol. Okay, so let's see how uh, this will be processed. So the string 0000. So for 0, um, so we're currently at state A. So we will already output 0, right? Because we're on state A. Staying at A, if we get if we process the first 0, we'll still stay in state A. So that means that we have another 0, and then still in state A for this one, then still in state A, still in state A. So we'll actually add 4 zeros for the output, right? So we have 5 zeros for the output. Okay, so um, because in state A, we'll already output 0 here, right? And then still in state A, output 0, still in state A, output 0, 0, 0. Okay, so that is the output. Now for this one, we're in state A, and then since we're in start state A, we'll output 0 already. So we're still in state A and process 0. Um, so it's still in A and output is 0. Um, A on 0 is still on A and still output is 0. Same with this one, still 0. But A on 1 will go to B and the output is 1. So your output is 0, 0, 0, 0, 1. Okay, so basically every time you land at a state during transition, you will output that state's output symbol. Okay, um, let's see other examples. For 0010, start at state A, so we'll output 0 right away. Okay, at A on 0 will remain in A and output 0 again. Then A on 0 is still A, output 0. A on 1 will go to B and output 1. And then B on 0 will go to C and output 2. So your output is 00012. Okay, and then last, um, let's see for this example. So at state A, we'll immediately output 0. Now, A on 0, still A, still 0, same here. And then A on 1 will go to B with output of 1. And then B on 1 will go back to A and output 0. So your output is 00010. Okay, so that is how you process the input string for your Moore machines. Every time you land on a state, you output the output symbol associated with that state. Okay, so that's it. Now let's go to the second finite automata with output, which is the Mealy machine. And this was created by George Mealy in 1955. And for the Mealy machine, the outputs are associated with its transitions. Okay, so it also uses a tuple notation, which is this has the same ingredients as the Moore machine. In fact, the Q, sigma, omega, um, delta, and Q sub 0 are the same as in Moore machine. The only thing that would be different is your lambda, which is your output function. Okay, because in the Moore machine, your output is associated with the states, but here it's associated with the transition. Again, you will notice that there are no set of final states F because we're still not concerned with acceptance, but with printing output instead. Okay, so um, what makes the output function of Mealy machine different? So for Mealy machine, we have the lambda, which is output function, map your set of states Q and your input symbols sigma, they map to an output symbol from omega. So your lambda will look like this. Lambda QA is equal to O, which is where O is an output. Okay, so the format of this looks like uh, it's similar to your delta transition function. So you have a state and an input symbol, and then instead of a state, we have an output. Okay, so what this means is that the state Q transitions on symbol A, and on that transition, it will output the output symbol O. Okay, so again, the difference is that for Moore, we had this form, lambda of Q is equal to O. So we did that for the states. But for Mealy, we have our outputs on the transitions. Okay, so let's see an example here. We have a Mealy machine example. So you'll notice that the states don't have outputs associated with them anymore, unlike some Moore. But instead, the outputs are in the transitions here. So you have the 0/n. That means that this is on input 0 transition and the output is n. Then for this one, this is 1y. So on input symbol 1, it will transition and the output will be y. Okay, so everything looks the same. We still have three states, A, B, C. Start state is A. input symbol is 0, 1, so that those are the transitions, and then the output is N or Y. Okay, so those are the output symbols on the transition. And then for the for the delta, we still define the transitions, and then for the lambda we also define the output associated with each transition. Okay, so yeah, that's the example Mealy machine. Okay, so let's take a look at how these input symbols will be processed by the example Mealy machine. So we're currently at state A, right? So we're at state A, and then on um, on 0, so let's do that again. Might want to write that one here. So on state A, on 0, it will transition to state B. But on that transition, we follow this transition, right? And the output is N, right? So output here is N. Now on B, if we see 0, B on 0 will stay on B, and the output is Y. Okay, and then finally B on 0 again will stay in B, and the output is Y again. So the output for 0, 0, 0 is NYY. Okay, now for the second one, for 0, 0, 1, so let's write that one here, 0, 0, 1. So we'll start at state A. A on 0 will go to B, and the output on that transition is N. Okay, then B on 0 will go to will stay in B and output Y because it followed this transition. So we have the output Y. And then B on 1 will go to C, and then since it followed this transition, outputs N. So the output for 0, 0, 1 is NYN. Okay, right here. And then finally, for 1, 1, 1, we start at A. A on 1 will go to C, and the output is N. Okay, right here. And then C on 1 will stay in C, but the output is Y. And then C on 1 again will remain in C, and output is Y. So the output is NYY for 111. Okay, so that's how you process your Mealy machine inputs. So every time you pass through a transition, you attach the associated output for that transition. Okay, so pretty simple. Okay, so that's it for Mealy machine. Um, you'll notice that there's a difference in the length of the output string for Moore and Mealy machines, right? Um, for the Moore machines, if the length of your input string is, let's say, 3, the output string would be 3 plus 1 or 4. And the reason for that is because at the start state pa lang, we already output the associated output symbol for that state. Okay, so we haven't processed an input symbol yet, but we already have one output. So that's why we have a plus 1. Okay, but in the Mealy machine, the length of the input string is the same as the length of the output string. So they are equal. Okay, so that's the difference. Okay, so okay, yeah, that's it. So let's now look at the equivalence of Moore and Mealy machine, and we need to show for them to be equivalent, we can turn the Moore machine to a Mealy machine and vice versa. Okay, so let's take a look at how to convert a Moore machine to a Mealy machine first. So if we're given a Moore machine, let's call it M sub 1 with a given 6-tuple notation. Our goal is to create the equivalent Mealy machine M sub 2, wherein it's the same except for the lambda. So lambda prime is the output function for your equivalent Mealy machine. And of course, that should be different because for Moore machine, the outputs are associated with the states, and here it should be associated with the transitions. Okay, so for the conversion of Moore to Mealy, um, the equivalent Mealy machine's lambda, so lambda prime QA will be equal to the original lambda, then delta of QA. So that means, so what does this equation mean exactly? So let's try to break it down. The equivalent Mealy's output, so that means that lambda prime siya, on the transition from state Q on symbol A. So remember that for Mealy, um, we have outputs on the transition. So we have to write it on transitions from Q to A. So what will be the output on this transition? So the output would be the Moore machine's output on the transition's destination. Okay, that seems like a lot. What does that? How does that look like? So you can see that in this what do you call it? In this example or illustration. So in the Moore machine, the outputs are associated with the states, right? So let's say we have states P and Q, and we have output associated with P, which is O of P, and then output associated with Q, which is O of Q. And then let's say we have this transition from P to Q on input symbol A. Now in the Mealy machine, we need to attach a associated output on the transition, right? So what would be the output for this transition? The conversion basically asks us that if we are to transition from P to Q, whatever was the output associated with Q or the destination, that would be the output of this transition. Okay, so it's that's how simple it is. So let's say, for example, let me draw it up. Let's say we have from state P, uh, let me make it bigger. So state P, let's say, it has output 0, and on state Q has output, let's say, 1. Okay, and if this transitions on, let's say, A, for the equivalent Mealy, P and Q na lang siya ang states because we don't have outputs associated in the states anymore. But on the transition for A, the output of this one would be whatever is the destination's output earlier, which is in this case 1. It will look something like this. Okay, and that's it. You only need to change the output function. So attach outputs to each transition, and that is by checking their destination state and um, using that output as the transition's output as well. Okay, so let's see how that would look like. So let me draw a, I have to use this one again. So let me draw an equivalent um, state here. So we have the start here. So this is A, B, and C. And then for the transitions from 0 to A, you have 1 to B, 1 here, 0, 0, and finally 1. Okay, so this is our base Mealy machine. So what I did was I just copied the Moore machine, but I did not include the outputs on the states anymore. What we will fill in are the um, transition outputs. So I'll use a different color for this one. Okay, uh, maybe not blue. Maybe green is better. Okay, there you go. So for A on 0, uh, so for A on 0, where will A on 0 go? So it will still stay in A, right? So the output of A is 0. So the transition here is also 0. Transition output, I mean. Okay? Then for A on 1, that will go to B, and the the output symbol associated with B is 1. So A on 1 will have an output of 1 as well. Okay, going to B. And then for B on 0, it will go to C, and the output is 2. So this will have output of 2. And then B on 1 will go to A, and the output associated with A is 0. So B on 1 will have 0. Okay, and then C on 0 will go to B, and then the B's output is 1. So this will have output of 1 as well. And then C on 1 will stay in C, so the output associated with this is 2. Okay, and you now have your equivalent Mealy machine. So your transition, or sorry, your outputs are now on the transitions, not on the state. Okay, so yeah, this is the equivalent Mealy machine that we just drew. Okay, so that's it. Um, Let me, it's back to red. Okay, so that's it. Um, let's now go to uh, the conversion of Mealy machine to Moore machine. So given your Mealy machine, M sub 1, with the 6-tuple notation, we will convert it to an equivalent Moore machine that accepts the same language. We'll call it M sub 2. But you'll notice that there are a lot of things that are different. So the set of states Q would be different. So we'll name it Q prime. The transition function will also be different because we have new set of states. So that will be lambda prime, sorry, delta prime. And then the output function, of course, will be different, lambda prime. And then we also have a new start state. We'll call it QO BO. Okay, so because the states will look like this. Okay, so first, let's take a look at the states of the equivalent Moore machine. So the states, equivalent Moore machine state names are of the form QB, enclosed in square brackets. And Q is the original state name, so it's still a state from the original Mealy machine. And B is an output associated with that state. So it could be any one of the outputs from the output symbol, omega. So for example, if your Mealy machine has two um, states, A and B, and your output symbols are NY, you could have the following states in the equivalent Moore machine. So you could have A with output N, A with output Y, B with output N, and B with output Y. Okay, so all possible um, cross products of the states and the output symbols. Okay, so this is how the states in the equivalent Moore machine will look like. Now for the starting state, um, we'll call it Q sub 0, B sub 0, wherein Q sub 0 is the original starting state in the given Mealy machine, and B sub 0 is an arbitrarily selected member of your um, omega. So you can just choose which output to start with, basically. So you could choose any one of them to be your starting state. Okay, so we'll see what this means in the example later. Now, for the transition function, um, this seems like a mouthful, but let's just go through it. Okay, so for all states Q and for all output symbols B and for all states A, or sorry, for all input symbols A, compute the new transition function such that um, delta prime of the state QB transition on A will be the state delta QA, so where it will end up in the original Mealy, and then what is the output. So lambda QA. Okay. So what does this mean? So if your original Mealy machine is looks like this, so you have the transitions that has the output symbol, right? So you could have AN and AY as the states. For state A, so regardless of the output of that state, so state A on input symbol 0 will go to B with the output symbol N. So that is the state Bn. So all A's, regardless of output, will go to Bn on transition 0. Okay, so that is why um, AN and AY here goes to BN on 0. So that is how we will set up our equivalent Moore machines transition function. For the output, well, it's pretty straightforward because the output symbol is embedded in the state name itself. So the output for that state QB is, of course, the B, which is the output symbol. Okay, so that's already part of the state name. So we'll just extract that as the output symbol. And the last thing that you need to know is that in converting Mealy to Moore, there will be some states that are unreachable. Okay, so if we enumerate all states, we will generate their transitions, but some states are actually unreachable. So if there are states that have no path from another state, so they cannot be reached, then they should not be part of the states because anyway we cannot reach them. Okay, so they are extra states that we can get rid of. So we'll remove the states that are unreachable from other states. Okay, and we'll just keep those states that are reachable from the start state. Okay, so we'll use our given Mealy machine earlier as our example, and we'll uh, convert it into a, what do you call this, a Moore machine. Okay, so we'll start with this one. Okay, so we have three states, A, B, and C, and the output symbols are N and Y. So initially we will have six states. So we'll have AN, AY, BN, BY, CN, and CY. Okay, because remember that the states in our equivalent Moore machine have the original states A, B, and C, but each state will have to be expanded with the possible output symbols. So we have AN, AY, BN, BY, and CN, CY. Now for their transitions, what will happen? So an on a 0, so on a 0, um, so actually we don't need to look at the output symbol uh, for the um, source state. So we'll just look at A, for example. So A on 0 will go to where? A on 0 will go to B, right? And the output of the transition is N. So that would be going to Bn. So we'll go to Bn on 0. And then this is the same for Ay actually. So this is also Bn. Um, but for, sorry, so we'll also have, so because A on a 0, again, will go to B with N. Okay. But for 1, A on 1, A on 1 will go to C, and the output associated with the transition is N. So that is Cn, right? So it will go here on a 1. But again, for ay0, it's just the same. It's still bn. And for ay1, that's also the same. It should be cn. Because it doesn't really matter what the output symbol of the source state is. So whether that's n or that's y, as long as it's a0, that's basically still bn. It's the same. And then for an and ay, as long as it's on 1, it still goes to cn. Okay, so let's wrap this one, ay to cn. Should cn on 1. Okay, so yep. Okay, so we've now taken care of the transitions on A. Now how about for B? So again, this will be the same for bn0 and by0, right? So for B on a 0, it will stay in B and the output is y, right? So that would be by. So it will go to by on a 0, and by will also go to by on a 0. Okay. Now for bn on 1, so b on 1 will go to c, and it will output n here. So that would be cn. So it will go to cn on a 1. And the same thing, by will also go to uh, cn on 1. Okay? And finally, last na lang ang cn. Cn on 0, so again, we'll just disregard this one. We'll just don't mind that. So just look at C on 0. So C on 0 will go to B with output of N. So that is on Bn. So we'll go back here on 0. So sorry if that looks complicated, but we will see a cleaner version of this in the next slide. And equivalently, Cy will also go to Bn on 0. Okay, so that's on Bn. Now for Cn on 1, C on 1 stays in C, and it will output Y. So it will go to Cy on 1. And Cy as well will stay in Cy on 1. Okay, so this is now your equivalent Moore machine. But we're not done with this one yet. Of course, the outputs associated with each input symbol here. For an, of course, this would be n. For AY, that would be Y, and so on. For BN, N, Y, and Y. Okay, so pretty straightforward because we already have embedded the output symbol in the state names themselves. Now, so this is the cleaner version of this one, right? So I'll just erase this one for now, the markings. But this is, yeah, this is the equivalent. Now, we're not done yet. We haven't chosen a start state yet. Okay, so as we mentioned earlier, we can just choose the arbitrary output symbol of where to start. So remember that our start state was A, so we could choose whether we could use AN or AY as our start state. But let's say that arbitrarily I will choose AN as my start state. So if this is the start state, what are the reachable states? So from AN, of course, I could reach AN, so that's good. I could also reach BN through this transition, so this is reachable. From BN, I could go to BY, so this is also reachable. I could also go to CN from here, and from CN, I could go to CY. But however, you will notice that AY here is not reachable, right? Because there are no um, transitions going into AY. So this is actually unreachable. So we will remove AY because, well, it's unreachable. So we'll also remove all the transitions associated with AY, and that will clean up our final Moore machine. Okay, so yeah, just to reiterate, we just choose arbitrarily which one should be the start state. So it could be AN or AY, but let's say we chose AN, and that makes our AY state unreachable. So we'll remove it. And if we remove it, this will be the final um, Moore machine equivalent of the given Mealy machine. Okay, so you notice we have already removed AY. All of the states are now reachable. Okay, so that is how you convert your Mealy machine to Moore machine. And that's it. So to review, in this video, we discussed the finite automata extensions starting with 2DFA, which allows your finite automata to move left or right on the input string. We also discussed Moore machines, which has output associated with the states, and then Mealy machines, which has outputs associated on their transitions. We also showed how to convert from Moore to Mealy and from Mealy to Moore. So they are really just equivalent machines. Okay, so those are the finite automata extensions. Um, for the next topic, we will be discussing properties of regular languages. So we'll discuss the decision algorithms and closure properties of regular languages. So this will be in the next video. Okay, so that's it for finite automata extensions, and I will see you next time.